An 18-year-old cheerleader went on a Caribbean cruise with her family. She felt sick one night and went back to her cabin early. The next morning, she did not show up for breakfast. When a housekeeper opened the cabin door, Anna Kepner was found stuffed under a bed, wrapped in a blanket, and covered with life jackets. The FBI boarded that ship the second it docked in Miami. And for months, nobody in that family said a single word. Anna Kepner was 18 years old and lived in Titusville, Florida, a small city on the Space Coast, about an hour east of Orlando. She was a senior at Temple Christian School. She was a cheerleader. She was a straight-A student. She had already been talking to military recruiters about joining the Navy after graduation. She had just finished taking the entrance exam. Her grandparents described her as bubbly, outgoing, and reliable. Her family said she was the kind of person whose energy filled a room. She volunteered in her grandparents' 55 and older neighborhood. She helped out at local businesses in Titusville. People who knew her said she was deeply connected to the people around her. She was set to graduate in May 2026. She had a plan. She had a future. On the 7th of November, 2025, she was found dead under a bed on a Carnival cruise ship in the middle of the Caribbean Sea. She was 18 years old. The trip was a family vacation. Anna boarded the Carnival Horizon in Miami for a 6-day Caribbean cruise. With her on that ship were her father, Chris Kepner, her stepmother, Shauntel Hudson, her grandparents, Barbara and Jeffrey Kepner, and 3 stepsiblings. 2 of those stepsiblings were Shauntel's children from her previous marriage. One of them was a 16-year-old boy. The other was a 9-year-old child. Anna also had her 14-year-old biological brother on the trip. At some point, the 3 teenagers, Anna, her 14-year-old brother, and the 16-year-old stepbrother, decided to share a cabin together, rather than stay with their grandparents a few decks above. Anna's stepmother, Shauntel, later testified in court that the 3 teens made that choice themselves. She described them as close. She used the phrase, the 3 amigos. She said they were best friends. That cabin became a crime scene. The night of the 6th of November, Anna told her family she was not feeling well during dinner. She left early and went back to the cabin to rest. That was the last time most of her family saw her alive. The following morning, the 7th of November, Anna did not appear for breakfast. Her family became frantic. A search began on the ship. A housekeeper found her. Anna Kepner was found stuffed under the bed in that cabin. She was unclothed. She was wrapped in a blanket. Life jackets had been placed on top of her to cover her body. Her time of death was recorded by the Miami-Dade medical examiner as 11:17 in the morning on the 7th of November. But investigators later came to believe the actual fatal event happened hours earlier, during the overnight period when her family thought she was simply sleeping. She had bruises on her neck. Keep those 2 boys in mind. That detail is the center of the entire investigation. The Carnival Horizon was scheduled to return to Port Miami on the 8th of November, the day after Anna was found. Carnival confirmed the ship docked on schedule, and the moment it pulled into port, federal agents were waiting. The FBI's Miami office boarded the Carnival Horizon and took control of the investigation immediately. The reason federal agents had jurisdiction was straightforward. Anna Kepner was a United States citizen, and she died in international waters. Under the Cruise Vessel Security and Safety Act, serious crimes on cruise ships operating out of U.S. ports must be reported to the FBI. Her death triggered that requirement. Carnival Cruise Line issued a short statement. They said they were cooperating fully with the FBI's Miami office. They confirmed the FBI had told them there was no ongoing threat to passengers aboard the ship as it continued its next voyage. They said nothing else publicly. The FBI said almost nothing for weeks. The Miami-Dade Medical Examiner's Office said almost nothing for weeks. From the outside, it looked like a family tragedy on a cruise ship. A young woman had died. The cause was unclear. Investigators were looking into it. That was all the public was told. But behind the scenes, federal agents were already focused on someone very specific, and they had been from almost the first moment they stepped onto that ship. But while the family was kept on the ship for questioning, the 16-year-old stepbrother was immediately taken off the vessel and transported to a local hospital for psychiatric observation. That was the first major clue. For nearly 2 weeks after Anna Kepner's body was found under that bed on the Carnival Horizon, the people who were supposed to have answers said absolutely nothing. The FBI had boarded that ship the second it docked in Miami on the 8th of November. They had interviewed people. They had collected evidence. They had the ship's security camera footage. They had the cabin. They had everything they needed to begin building a case, and they said nothing publicly. The Miami-Dade medical examiner's office had received Anna's body. They had conducted an examination. They knew what killed her. They knew the injuries on her neck. They knew this was not a medical emergency or an accident, and they said nothing publicly. Carnival Cruise Line put out one short statement, confirming Anna had died, and that they were cooperating with the FBI. They said there was no threat to other passengers on the ship. They wished the family well. And then they said nothing else. Meanwhile, Anna Kepner's family in Titusville, Florida planned a funeral for an 18-year-old girl who had never made it home from vacation. They buried her. They grieved. And the people sitting in that courtroom at her memorial service had no official answers to give anyone about who killed their daughter or what had happened in that cabin. Passengers who had been aboard the Carnival Horizon the night Anna died later told reporters it had been a chaotic and confusing night on the ship. One frequent cruiser named Tina Altman described the atmosphere as unsettling. She said there was very little information given to passengers about what was happening. She said she had a 21-year-old daughter and a 19-year-old son, and the whole situation broke her heart. But even the passengers who were there, who were on that ship when it happened, could not say exactly what they had witnessed or what they had been told. Complete silence from every official direction. That silence lasted until the 18th of November 2025, 11 days after Anna's body was discovered. And when the silence finally broke, it did not break because the FBI held a press conference. It did not break because the medical examiner released a report. It did not break because Carnival made an announcement, or because law enforcement in Florida stepped forward with answers. It broke because of paperwork filed in a completely unrelated family court case. In Brevard County, Florida, Shauntel Hudson was Anna's stepmother. She was the woman who had married Anna's father, Chris Kepner. But before she married Chris, Shauntel had been married to a man named Thomas Hudson. That marriage had ended badly. By November 2025, Shauntel and Thomas Hudson were in the middle of a bitter custody dispute over their 2 younger children. On the 18th of November, attorneys representing Shauntel Hudson filed documents in that custody case asking to pause proceedings. By the 19th of November, those documents became public, and the reason they gave for the pause is what stopped everyone who read it. The filing stated that Shauntel Hudson needed to halt her testimony because the FBI had contacted her directly. Federal agents had told her they were investigating one of her children in connection with the death of Anna Kepner. The document was specific. It said the FBI was looking into her child arising out of the sudden death of Anna. It said a criminal case may be initiated against one of the minor children involved in the custody dispute. One of Shauntel's children from her first marriage had been on that cruise. One of Shauntel's children from her first marriage had shared a cabin with Anna on the night she was strangled. That child was 16 years old. The court filing identified him only by his initials. Those 2 letters were enough. Within hours of the document becoming public, people in Titusville and across social media connected the initials to a name. Family members later confirmed it publicly. Anna's grandmother posted about it directly. The 16-year-old was Timothy Hudson, Shauntel's son from her marriage to Thomas Hudson, the boy who had been sleeping in the same room as Anna on the night she was killed, the boy whose mother had just been told by the FBI that he was under federal investigation for her stepdaughter's death. By the time the sun went down on the 19th of November, the story had exploded across every major news outlet in the country. Every detail that had been locked behind official silence for 12 days was now in the open. The name, the cabin, the family connection, the FBI investigation targeting a 16-year-old boy. The case went from a mysterious cruise ship death to a national homicide story in a matter of hours. And Timothy Hudson's mother was the one whose court filing made it happen. Once court documents began surfacing, the details inside them painted a disturbing picture. Anna's death certificate was officially released on the 25th of November, 2025. It confirmed the cause of death as mechanical asphyxia. The document stated clearly that Anna Kepner was mechanically asphyxiated by other persons. Medical examiner Stephen Nelson, who was not involved in the case but spoke to reporters about the terminology, explained that mechanical asphyxia means the airway was cut off by some object or physical force. Her breathing was forcibly stopped by another person. The autopsy also revealed crucial details about what didn't happen. There was no evidence of sexual assault, and toxicology reports showed absolutely no drugs or alcohol in Anna's system. She was completely sober. It was a purely deliberate, violent act. The FBI had told Anna's family that she appeared to have died from asphyxiation, possibly caused by a bar hold, which is an arm placed across the neck. She was strangled. Anna's aunt Crystal Wright went on record, saying Anna had been afraid of her 16-year-old stepbrother before the trip even started. This was backed up by Anna's ex-boyfriend, Jim Thew, who publicly stated, "There were signs before this." Anna had specifically told him she felt uncomfortable around her stepbrother. That information added a layer to the story that shifted everything. This was not a sudden random act. There were signs before that cruise ever left Miami. Another detail surfaced through the family court proceedings. One of Shauntel's older children, an 18-year-old named Andrew Hudson, who lived with his father and was not on the cruise, testified in court about a violent incident involving himself, Shauntel, and Anna's father, Chris Kepner. He described being put in a chokehold and held against a car seat during a family dispute. He said it was not the first time he had seen physical force used within that blended family. A legal expert later commented publicly on the case and said that given the brutal nature of Anna's death and what appeared to be a deliberate concealment of her body, the government was likely to pursue adult charges against Timothy Hudson, regardless of his age. A 16-year-old who says he remembers nothing, a body hidden under a bed with life jackets on top, bruises on her neck, and a family that stayed almost completely silent for months. Here is what happened when that silence finally broke. The 17th of December 2025, a Brevard County courtroom in Florida. The hearing was supposed to be about custody of Shauntel Hudson's younger children. It turned into the most detailed public window yet into what had happened on that cruise ship. Shauntel Hudson testified that the three teenagers had chosen to share a cabin on their own. She described Timothy as close to Anna. She called them the three Amigos. She said sharing a room with two male stepsiblings was Anna's own decision and not something the adults had forced. But Brevard County Judge Kevin Abdany said something from the bench that cut through all of it. In open court, he stated that the 16-year-old child is now a suspect in the death of the stepchild during the cruise. The judge said it plainly, not a person of interest. A suspect, Timothy Hudson, had been removed from the family home. By the time of that hearing, he was placed with one of Shauntel's relatives, while the investigation continued. Shauntel testified that she and Chris Kepner had safety concerns about allowing him to remain with their other children. Court documents also revealed something that had been circulating quietly through family text messages since Anna's death. Timothy Hudson's mother told his father in a text message that when asked about what happened in that cabin, Timothy kept repeating that he didn't remember anything. He said it over and over. He did not remember. A boy who shared a room with an 18-year-old girl who ended up strangled and hidden under a bed. And he said he did not remember anything. The 6th of February, 2026. Miami. 3 months after Anna Kepner was found dead on that cruise ship, Timothy Hudson walked into the James Lawrence King Federal Justice Building in Miami. He was wearing a camouflage hoodie and a cap. He was flanked by his attorney. U.S. Marshals were present. He said nothing to the reporters outside. The courtroom was locked. The docket was sealed. Because Timothy Hudson is a juvenile, all proceedings are closed to the public and all records are confidential by law. After the hearing ended, Hudson was taken to a probation office for processing and then released to the custody of a guardian pending further proceedings. Anna's grandfather confirmed publicly that Timothy had turned himself in. Anna's grandmother Barbara posted on Facebook that he had been charged as a juvenile for the state of Florida and that the FBI would charge him as an adult. She wrote that the family was told to let the process happen, and that was why they were not speaking publicly. But Anna's biological mother, Heather Wright, did speak. She went on TikTok the same day. She was furious. She said she had been told he was being charged, and then found out at the federal level no murder charge had been announced. She said the charges had not been what the family was told to expect. She said the boy knew what he was doing. She said trying him as a juvenile was wrong. Anna's father, Chris Kepner, and stepmother, Shauntel, issued a written statement. They expressed gratitude to the FBI and the Department of Justice. They described Anna as having been taken in a violent and senseless way. They said no parent should ever have to bury their child. And then they said something pointed. They wrote that it was deeply painful and disturbing to their family that the person responsible for Anna's death had not yet been held fully accountable. The specific charges remained sealed. The case remains sealed. Everything about what happens next is sealed. Anna Kepner was strangled on a family vacation. Her body was hidden under a bed and covered with life jackets. The medical examiner confirmed homicide. The FBI confirmed they were investigating. A judge in open court named a 16-year-old as a suspect. That 16-year-old appeared in federal court, and still, as of now, the public does not know what he was charged with. There are questions about this case that have not been answered. Why did it take 3 months from the date of death to a court appearance? Why was the suspect released to a guardian after the hearing rather than held? Why are the charges sealed in a federal case involving the homicide of an adult victim who was 18 years old? Legal experts have said that juveniles charged in federal court can only be held until their 21st birthday, regardless of what they are convicted of, unless the government successfully moves to try them as an adult. Anna's family says the FBI told them she was killed by a bar hold, an arm across the neck, the same kind of hold that the stepbrother's own older sibling described witnessing used in that family during a separate incident years earlier. Anna had told family she did not feel safe around this person before the trip. Anna went to bed feeling sick. Anna was found hours later hidden under that bed. And the person the FBI has been investigating since before the ship even docked in Miami said he did not remember anything. Anna Kepner wanted to join the Navy. She wanted to serve her community. She was weeks away from finishing high school and starting the next chapter of her life. Instead, she became a headline about a cruise ship death mystery and a case that spent months behind sealed courtroom doors. She was strangled on a family vacation, and for months, the people on that vacation stayed almost completely quiet. Her biological mother is not quiet. Her grandparents are not quiet. The people who loved Anna before her father remarried, before there was a blended family, before there was a cruise ship vacation, those people are not staying quiet. They want adult charges. They want a public trial. They want the sealed docket opened. They want the world to know what happened in that cabin on the night of the 6th of November 2025, when an 18-year-old girl who loved her community and dreamed of serving her country went to sleep and never got back up. The case is sealed. The charges are unknown. The suspect is free pending proceedings. Anna Kepner is not.